The biggest battle that we will ever have to face is the battle between you and you. It's the battle of taking your mind to that limit and then breaking through. On the Mindful Experiment podcast, we will be interviewing individuals who have done that, who have gone through the struggles, who have tried to create a reality in all that they could. And when all the odds were against them, they made the impossible possible. I'm your host, Dr. Vic Manzo, and I want to thank you for being on the podcast and taking this journey with me as we go through and discover different avenues to break through those limits, different avenues to help you expand your reality so that you can evolve into the person that you desire to be. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to another special episode of the Mindful Experiment. I'm your host, Dr. Vic, and we are discussing my book. We're going over chapter 10. My new book came out. It's called Rediscover Your Greatness, a guide to creating an inspired and fulfilled life. It's an amazing book, guys. Check it out if you haven't done so already. Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Nook, a variety of different online retailers. It's on iBooks. And we'll be also offering it audiobook version style. It'll be happening at the end of July, so check that out. Also, check out our website, empoweryourreality.com, to keep up with all the content. We got some new free online classes coming up. We have a new one coming on in just a couple weeks now. It'll be the first to second week of July. We will be launching a free 1 week. You can subscribe to it anytime you like. 7 days with me, and we'll be sharing ways to disconnect to reconnect. Also, we're starting to offer a special pricing, a limited availability to this. I'm going to be opening up the door to 5 people. We're going to do a group coaching session for 5 weeks. And the whole concept is to give you tools to become a master of your life, learn how to disconnect, break down labels, and come back to the power of who you are. So definitely get connected with us, empoweryourreality.com. Check out, just click you'll get a little pop-up. Go ahead and subscribe. And again, we don't spam. We don't do any of that. It's just we send an email maybe twice a month just to give you some tips and information of what's going on and all the new programs and things we're coming out with, because we are rolling out a ton of stuff here at Empower Your Reality and the Mindful Experiment, and I want you to excited so you can be a part of it. All right, let's dive in. Chapter 10. Chapter 10 is it's the reason why I call it this chapter, The Inevitable Truth. What is the inevitable truth? Well, let me give you a couple quotes that I start out with in this chapter. And excuse my throat's acting up today, but well, first quote I have here is, "Here is the test to find whether your mission on earth is finished. If you're alive, it isn't," by Richard Bach. "Seeing death as the end of life is like seeing the horizon as the end of the ocean," by David Searles. We're talking about death, folks. It is the one thing that we all experience. It's the one thing that none of us get out of here alive. Everything in the physical realm has a beginning and the end. Spiritually, not so much. Actually, it doesn't have any of that. But physically, we do. And there is so much of a limit to what do we get to experience in this life. To some people, life feels long. To some others, it's like a blink of the eye. But regardless of what that is, we're limited on how much we can experience in one lifetime. And one of the things I've learned is through time, I learned this from a business mentor who told me, don't look at the beginning of what you want to create, but instead focus at the end in mind. Focus on your end game. When you will get out, what is your plan? And it's kind of interesting because when I first started my business, I wasn't thinking about the end game. I was focusing all on the beginning. And she said, there's going to come a time where you're going to have an end game. And so why don't you get that out of the way now so you have a plan? And so when I thought about that, I thought about death. When I'm done and my time is up here, what do I want to be remembered as? What do I want to leave my legacy? Why do I want to... What is my end game? What do I want my kids to think of me? My grandkids? Heck, if I get the blessing of having great grandkids, what conversations would they have about me? What can I leave with them that would be a part of me? And I really started to tap into those questions and make it a reality. That there is going to come a time I won't be here anymore. There will come that time. And at 30, I actually started this journey at 29, thinking about these things. And it took a while to marinate. Because you got to understand, guys, I had to let go of fear of the death in order for me to start to live. And once I started to live, I started to focus on what I wanted to create for my family and what I wanted to leave to the world. Because every one of us have a gift. I don't care who you are. You have a gift. You have a greatness in you. You have something special to give to this world. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for it. The world could not exist at this time without you being here. Your existence is so powerful to be here, right now. It's unreal. And now some of you say, oh, this is rah, rah, ha, ha, motivational speaking. Well, part of it is, but a lot of it's truth. And it's hard to explain the full and detail of it all. So I try to just keep it on the simple side. That's the power of you and who you are. So as we continue to dive in here, one of the things I continue to share is the dark side and the gloomy subject. But in order to truly add anything, and I just talked about this in a couple chapters ago, you have to go through the darkness to experience the light. You have to go through the darkness of letting go of the fear of death, which most of us have, to appreciate the light. And what I do here in this chapter is really, really try to create high levels of inspiration that I can for you, to truly see it in the grander scheme of things. That's kind of the big vision, the big goal of what I had in this chapter for everyone, is to just really try to hammer out a subject, but to create it to be more on an inspirational side, but bring in the science with it. So as we go ahead, let's jump in, because I know this is a subject that a lot of people are interested to, what is the top 2 things in the world? Fear of public speaking. Number 2 is fear of death. So we got to look at this from that perspective, and we're going to hammer out every single thing as we dive in. The truth is, guys, every single thing that has existed in the physical world has a time frame stamped on it. It has its own eternal stopwatch. It has, it has a beginning and an end. We look at animals, planets, stars, galaxies, universes. They all have a beginning and the end. All physical things don't last forever. But here's the beautiful thing: you do. The essence of who you are transcends all time and space. As we explained in Chapter 1, you are endless, you're timeless, you're external. If you haven't checked out my Chapter 1 summary, go check it out on our podcast. We talk a lot about that. In the view of the soul, this life is in the blink of the eye, but the time frame is very short. We don't have an opportunity to live 1,000 years on this planet. We get 80 to 100, maybe 120 if we're lucky. And we get to see what this world has to offer and help us rediscover who we are, expand and evolve into the person we desire in this lifetime. And as your soul expands and evolves, as your physical self does also. So, is it worth busting your ass 12 to 16 hours a day to make ends meet, to trade that time to miss out on the time with your family, to miss out on the time with your family growing up, to miss out on the things that are most valuable to you? Is it worth being busy all the time, fast-paced, not being mindful of the moments you have here on Earth? Because in today's world, we're so busy mindset. We're so on the go. We're always focusing on every little thing, distracted from all things. And the biggest distraction we have is the distraction away from what life has to offer. That's why a lot of people write about the presence, the power of now, how everything is in the present moment. Because when you're not in the present moment, you miss out on the beauty of life. When's the last time you walked outside and just wanted to hear the beauty of what the birds chirping? And just be in awe of them chirping. Or go by a babbling brook or a little river and just hear the waterfall and just enjoy, or the water running, and just sit back and enjoy it. When was the last time you just saw your kid? Just stare at them and watch them play and be in that all-curious mindset. Something that we have within, we just forgot how to use. Or how about just sitting and being blessed for what you have and just enjoying the moment of where you are now? How about chewing food and enjoying what you're eating and taking the time to enjoy it and really appreciating the food that you have to enjoy at this time? See, guys, I can go on and on and on. Thing is, we don't do that as much. And as I share in here, I talk about how, for me, growing up, I know what it feels like to have a family trying to make ends meet. Work becomes a priority over everything else because it's all about sustaining the family financially so that we can have food on the table and we can have warm clothes on our back. And I talk about how my dad had 2 jobs and mom had 3 part-time jobs just to make ends meet, and I'm very grateful for it all. But one of the things is that taught me something. It taught me I didn't want to be away from my kids. I don't want to be away from my family. I want to make sure I'm with them in all the possible times that I can be, soaking in every single memory I could. Because in reality, to me, my value system, family's up there. I want to be able to enjoy my time with my kids, my dog, my wife. I don't even have kids yet, guys, but I will. But it's one of those things. And I started to focus on my life and started to realize, man, I remember my dad said, he was talking to my nephew, and one day he was just like, it's nice I get to enjoy this time with him. He's about 6 years old at this time of doing this podcast. And I remember he was talking like, I didn't get too much of that when these guys, he will say, these knuckleheads were growing up. And my dad doesn't talk too much like that, but doesn't talk much, but when he does, it's very powerful. And it was just a sign that I saw. I was like, wow, he didn't really want to do that. He did it because he was sacrificing his time for work just to try to make ends meet. And some things that brought up to me was that this brought up a question to me, and it was experiencing 2 good friends and my grandfather passing on. And these experiences taught me a common lesson. And this is where everything changed in my life. And this is why I brought it in this book, because I wanted you to really, really think of this. Okay? To really have a value check, to check in and see what really matters. If you had 24 hours left to live, what would you do? How would you spend your time? Would you continue to do the same things you do on a daily basis? Would you spend all the time watching TV, the news, reading a book? What would you do if you only had 24 hours left to live? What is it? Or how about a week, a day? Well, is a day. A week, a month, 3 months, 6 months. What is it you would do if you knew that's all the time you had left? You see how that changes things a little bit? If you really let those questions soak in, it's going to change your mindset a little bit. It's going to shift gears. It's going to strike a chord in you. You see, I used to say all the time, and I still say to this day, people who get frustrated, anger, who hold resentment to other people, they think they last forever. Deep down, you think you do, whether you believe it or you don't. Because if you really understood that you don't last forever, there would be no purpose for anger, frustration, resentment. You wouldn't want to have those emotions because you know that deep down, you're not going to be here forever. And so you want to embrace every moment you can. Now, I'm not saying that anger is a bad thing. Frustration is a bad thing. Those are going to happen. It's part of the human experience. But when you hold those things upon somebody for that long of a time, you think you're lasting forever. And you see, for me, when I really thought about that 24 hours, if I had one day left on this planet, I thought about what would I be doing? Would I be running to my office and going ahead and adjusting patients? I was like, I may do that for an hour. The bigger thing is there was 2 things that struck me really hard. And for me, it was, 1, I want to be with my family and my closest friends. I want to be with them. That's what matters most. The second, I need to share all that I can with the world. Whether people mock, laugh, enjoy it, don't like it, do, whatever it may be, I need to share all the information and the experiences I have within to share it to the outside world that hopefully it will help someone have more fulfillment and inspiration within their life to raise their consciousness level, because when that happens, then all of a sudden I know that I helped create a ripple effect to help others to be more fulfilled and allow the other people who haven't experienced those things to have the opportunity to do the exact same thing. And so that's where the birth of the book came. That's where the birth of the Empower Your Reality came. That's where all that came. And I started to do that because that's just one of the things that I knew looking at that. That's what I wanted to do. And so from that moment on, I made sure I spent every night with my wife, even if it's just 30 minutes. I just spend some time to connect with her. We debrief, we connect, and just reconnect with one another. And I connect with friends and good friends as much as I can. Reach out to them. Hey, let's get together. It's been too long. Some get stuck in that whole busy go mindset, and they just lose track of time. And then all of a sudden, it's like 2 years since we've hung out. And I try to be a nuance as much as I can, but I don't want to be too much. But it's one of those things. And it's like I always try to make sure I have a solid relationship with my parents. Let them know I love them. You never know how long your parents will last on this planet, nor myself. From there, it inspired me to start writing my book, guys. That's where it came from. And I have a goal of writing over 30 books. So in my lifetime, and I want to do that. Wayne Dyer did almost 40, and he was a mentor. And my goal is to get as close as I can to him, because I was amazed at how he just radically changed people's lives for the better. He lived a very simplistic life to do that. And my goal is to do something very similar to that. And one of the last things I wanted to make sure is I have a worksheet you guys can connect to. Is I wanted to make sure I left this planet on E. I left this planet on empty. And I gave everything I had within, and I've walked away, empty tank, ready to move on to my next life. And just sit back and enjoy the movie of all that I did. And I think it's really a blessing that the goal, I think, for everybody is to be on E when they leave. But unfortunately, the most expensive, most richest place in the world, where the most richest place exists, is not in a mansion, but in the cemetery. Because how many people have passed on, not sharing their gifts, their visions, their dreams with the world, and the world had to miss? What if Steve Jobs never went and was persistent as he was when it came to Apple? What if Bill Gates wasn't as persistent as he was when it came to Microsoft? We wouldn't see that today, but we do. What about Elon Musk? What if he didn't persist at what he has? Will the electric car be as popular as it is? I think eventually. But Elon Musk is a pioneer of breaking through barriers and continually to do so. That's what it is to live on E. Share your gifts, your goals, and your vision. The bitterness tears shed over graves are for words left unsaid and deeds left undone. Harriet Beecher Stowe. And so the cemetery, guys, is the richest place in the world. But if you're here right now, you have a purpose. If you are here, you're listening to this podcast, you are here for a reason. You still have a purpose of why you're here and why you can thrive and grow and massively have unbelievable success. The universe does not like to waste energy. It never does. Everything is always used and put to a purpose. So if you're here, you have a purpose. Same thing with the human body, guys. The body will recycle up as much as it can of energy to be as efficient as possible. I remember when we were in physiology and they were talking about how as the energy efficiency of our bodies compared to a gallon of gasoline. He said if our car was efficient as with our energy as with our bodies are, 1 gallon will last us over 1,000 miles per gallon. Isn't that crazy? That's how efficient we are. So another thing I talk about is how the body taught me more about the universe. When a cell is about to die, it will go into a big shake and explode, giving itself up to the rest of the cells. It shares all that it has within to other cells to use and consume for their needs. The universe does the exact same thing. When a star explodes, all the dust, materials, and so forth will soon one day be recycled and used up by the universe to start new life. This is an endless cycle that occurs, and life will never be left unused. It's the power. So when you share your stuff that you have within, you start to share with the universe and with others how to grow, expand, and evolve in their own way. So ask yourself this question. Why do you wake up every morning? What is the drive for you to get up? Really sit with those. Because like for me, it's kind of the same thing. And I ask these every morning. Because what most people say is, because I have to work. The bills need to be paid. The kids need to go to school, etc. But in reality, what is the deeper reason why? There is a purpose to why we wake up and get on with our day. We didn't do all this work as a soul to come into this small little body to have a human being experience just to wake up every morning and go to work and take the kids to school. You came here for something greater. If you know what it is, great. Keep it rocking and rolling. If you don't know what it is, here's some questions to ask yourself. Really some soul-seeking questions. Number 1, if you had 24 hours left to live, what would you do? How different would it be from your life now? If money was no object and you knew you would not fail, what would you like to do in this lifetime? These two questions transformed my reality. It shifted my perspective. It started to create a fulfilled life for me. And the things that I always keep in focus is when I wake up, I say, I have another 24 hours to create an experience. What shall I create today? And the other is my last 24 hours, how do I want to maximize it to the fullest? I was on a podcast this morning, and it was at 7 in the morning. And the person who was interviewing me, she goes, wow. She goes, what time is it by you? I'm like, 7 in the morning. She's like, you are so energized for 7 in the morning. And I'm going, I'm not a morning person. And she's like, how do you get energized like that? And so we started off the whole podcast with that. And the thing is because I know I only have 24 hours left to live, or if I did, what am I going to do? Am I going to wake up, oh, here we go, another day. This is so aggravating. I don't love my life. And I just focus on the negatives and issues? Or do I go and say, hell, it's another day I can create, another day I get to experience, another day I get to enjoy life. Man, what can I do to be, how can I make this great? How can I bring the best version of me to the table so I can maximize my experience as much as I can? Now, I like to be transparent. The truth on the other side of that token is, though, one of the aspects is also that I do have bad days. There's times things get to me too. But I try to focus as much as I can on the good and keep myself at a high, good energy state so that I can be the best version of me. You know, I remember one of the things I start to share too is they say when you get older, you start to care less about the things care less about the things and come into yourself more. What that means is that you don't worry about the little nuances of life, and it's so true because when I was in high school, I used to be so about how I look, my clothes, hair, the whole 9 yards. Well, when I had hair, but when I look at myself now, I'm like the total opposite. I can really care how I look. There are some instances what I do, but it's very minimal. Like it's not for me. I'm all about I just want to get comfortable. The only time I really care about my my looks is when I'm in a suit. I think it's the Italian side of me that comes out. I gotta look good in a suit. But other than that, there's really no value to it because I'm just more of an easygoing guy. But it's been, that's one of the things that I've learned over time. Your values change as you get older too, and you have different perspectives on things. But as I talked about earlier about the grudge and holding things together, and one of the things I share in the book is I talk about when you're angry with someone or holding someone to a grudge, it's kind of like holding a hot coal and you want them to experience the pain. Or like drinking poison and hoping they're the ones that experience the poison effects. Forgiveness, though, is another word for understanding. And when someone does something wrong to you, hurts you, betrays you, causes harm, why shift our mindset into a victim? Why do we need to forgive in the first place? What is the purpose of forgiveness, guys? Right? But since forgiving myself for my shortcomings and all that I do is tough because I'm so hard on myself, but again, who isn't? I remember in meditation I received this long message about forgiveness. It started with a voice little saying, forgiveness does not exist and it is not needed. I was shocked to hear this. I'm like, forgiveness is always needed. What are you talking about? We must apologize for when we make a mistake or shortcoming in life. And the voice explained why. And here's what I got from this meditation that I shared in the book. And I'm quoting from the book. At the viewpoint of where I am, you will realize that every single person is doing the best they can with the information and resources they have. If you went through every single experience that they have gone through, you would do the same thing. There is no difference between each of us. Forgiving someone for doing their best is not ideal nor makes much sense. No one could ever judge an individual's effort, and each human being on this planet is giving 100% effort every single day, regardless of what anyone thinks. Instead, when someone does something to hurt you, upset you, anger you, etc., come from the vantage point of understanding. Put 100% effort into understanding that in some unique way they are doing the best they can. And as a fellow brother or sister in the human race, our job is to help create perspective and clarity for them. And when two people come from a place of understanding, love blossoms each and every time. Yes, I got all that message in that meditation. It was really profound. There's a lot more to it. Words can't explain everything. It was more like an energy feeling too. But it was really looking at things from a different vantage point. And it looked at it and saying, well, people are just doing the best they can. Support them. Their ups, their downs, their good and bads. I tell my wife all the time, I'm going to fail and make mistakes, and I'm going to fail and make more mistakes. It's going to happen in every area of my life. It's not that I don't want those mistakes to happen, but they will. But help me, support me by learning from them. Help me, support me to how to become better and expand from them. And always just help be an understanding, and whatnot. When she makes a mistake, sometimes I joke with her about or if things happen, or she said something that was a little hurtful. We all do it, and I'd be like, "You need to apologize to me." But what I try to do, and I'm trying to get better at this, is ask her, "I want to understand what made that come out. Why did you feel like you had to say that?" And just try to understand where they're coming from. Sometimes people don't understand where they're coming from. There's a lot of subconscious that plays a role in a lot of things. But the key is I'm just trying to understand. Because when I understand, then I can see things from a different vantage point And from that vantage point, I could be like, okay, great, this makes sense. Let's do X, Y, and Z. That's why love will blossom every time. So it's kind of like this. If you don't believe that works, take a look at the last time you had an argument with someone. Take a look at the last time you had he had a little tiff bit. He had some beef with someone else, right? And when things got all cleared up, how'd you feel? Did you feel horrible? Or did you feel better? Did you feel less adequate and fulfilled, or you felt more? Did you appreciate the relationship more, or less, or more? Because most of the time, you're going to be in a better state. You're going to be happy it's over with, and you can get back to focusing on the good stuff. So one of the things I share about is I kind of talk about being less than the potential of who you can be. I dive into some of those things because nobody wants to live less than their potential. I get into the whole vision thing of focus again, so it's something to check out in the book. I talk about the real thing you have to be with yourself is 100% honest if you did the work, because everything I've shared in this book with you is how the game called life works, and if you truly focus on the reality, the vision, the life you want to create, if you give 100% your attention and focus to it, it is impossible for you not to be attracted into your world. It is impossible. The only reason why things are not happening to you is because you're allowing distractions to the things that you are focusing on. So when you look at your life and the reality of what you want to create, always look at the focus, because that's where we're going to be. And I dived into chapter 2 about that. There's three things in life I say that are guarantees, not two. I've always been told there's two: taxes and death. And I say, you know what? There's three. And the reason why I say there's three is because you're always getting death. We're not getting out of here alive. Taxes, you're always going to have to pay taxes. And number 3, distractions will always be there. They always will. They never go away. They've been here for a gazillion years, and they'll be here for another gazillion more years. Because life is constantly going to challenge you and mold you. It'll create circumstances for you to overcome. It'll constantly send challenges your way to test where you are and help you achieve the characteristics you desire to evolve into who you want to be. But regardless of your stories of the reasons why you're not where you want to desire to be, or creating excuses why you don't have the time to get something done, take time for yourself, work out, eat right, etc. Instead of get back to your focus and stop giving the excuses power over your desires. Stop telling stories. Just do the work. Know where you want to be and do the work. And I've done this numerous times. So that's where it comes to getting up, doing the work, living with urgency. That's what I like to call it. Living with urgency. You have 24 hours. I don't know if I'm going to be here for another 24 hours after this, but I know I'm here right now, and I know that I have an opportunity to experience. I'm taking advantage of it. Next day, same thing. Next day, same thing. Rinse, repeat. That's the concept of what I'm trying to share. And at the end of the day, you want to live on your day empty, living on E. Because then you gave it your all. You gave it 100%. You gave it all that you have within. And that's the concept when it comes to doing that. Don't let the BS stories pull you away. Don't let that get in. Because we can create excuses for everything. At the end of the day, it's black and white. You did or you did not. There's no in between. The mind will make you think there's in between. But just focus it on what it is you desire. Again, ask those questions. Because again, like for me, it's always living on E. And if you want to know more about living on E, you can go to, now I have it in here. I'll actually put it in the show notes because it's a short link, and you can go in there and you can download how to live to E worksheet. And it's just a simple little worksheet I created that can help you really focus a little bit more on what it is you want to create and how you can continue to be focused every single day, and it's something you can work with. So I'll put that in the notes so you can, the things I share about and how to live on E, so that you're always at your best, because that day is going to come one day where we're going to come to that end, and we want to make sure that we keep rocking and rolling with everything. As I say at the end, as I close this episode up, I always talk about the do or die mentality. The do or die mentality basically means this and don't mind the extreme of this. But if I put a gun to your head and told you either get your goals done or you're done, how much would that help you get your shit done? I bet every one of you would say I would make it happen some way, somehow. You would make it happen. I know it's an extreme statement, but there's a lot of truth behind it. And so know that, and don't forget that you don't last forever here on earth. Your time will come. But the key concept is not to get all dark and gloomy. The key concept is to Say, okay, I know that's going to come. I'm going to embrace death. I know it's coming for me one day. I don't know when that day is going to happen, but I'm going to take on and be the best that I can be every single day of my life so that when that day comes, I know I gave it all I had. I did all that I could. I played 100% out. I was a kid, acted, sharing out, sharing all the things I wanted to share, explore, and do, and maxed out as much as I can. For me in my life, guys, it's all coming about eating clean, working out, spending time with my relationship with self, connecting with my source, connecting with my wife and my family. These are the do or dies for me. I do them or else I start to die within. No one is holding the gun to me, but what I do know is every day you are either expanding in the areas of your life or you're shrinking, but it's never staying still or doing both. It is one or the other. So when you add a little fuel to each of the fire each and every time, you are slowly creating a fire that will continue to burn and grow. And what happens when you don't fuel the fire? Just like anything else, it shrinks. So check it out. I'll have it in notes for that to how to live on E. And know to live out, be your best at 100% because the graveyard is the most richest place in the world because that's where all the greatest ideas got left. And they never were shared to the world. And my goal for you is to give your voice, your message, your truth, and share it out to the world. And let the world know, hey, this is what I have to offer. Because let me tell you, Lord, do we need as much light as possible to make a great shift. There's a conscious war happening, consciousness war, between the powers of be and the powers of not be. And the thing is the more people that illuminate, the more people are fulfilled, the more people are inspired and living to their truth and sharing it into the world, the more that raises their vibration, their consciousness, and it helps allow others to do the same thing. And from there, we all grow together and rise to higher levels of consciousness, higher levels of experiences, the more to what we desire in this lifetime for all of humanity. That's the power. So check out the show notes. If you haven't got my book, check it out. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. We have it for Nook, Kindle, iBook, audiobook coming out the end of July. Go to empoweryourreality.com. Check out more information. Subscribe to our newsletter. Guys, we're rocking and rolling. We're creating a movement, and we really want to create a conscious movement to help shift the mindsets, to help people understand simple concepts. They're very complex, and they can become even more complex. But we share them in a very simplistic way for you to grasp, utilize, and put into your life so that you can truly start to transform it to higher levels. Well, thank you for checking out the episode. Until next time, keep rocking and rolling, y'all.
Thank you for listening to the Mindful Experiment podcast. For past shows, please visit www.empoweryourreality.com. I hope this show inspired you and added to your life to help you rediscover who you really are, to break through those limits. For connecting with us on social media, please check us out on Facebook at www.facebook.com/empoweryourreality. You can check us out on Twitter. Our handle is Dr. Vic21. And also check us out on Instagram. It's instagram.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. And as always, if this show you found to be helpful for you, by paying it forward and sharing this podcast with someone that you know who could benefit from it. And last but not least, if you liked the podcast show, please give us a review, 5-star. We'd appreciate that. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Experiment, helping you discover your infinite potential.